Hello, this is Joshua for Frost Dragon Designs, and today I'd like to talk to you about my Toe of Frog Cat Witch hard enamel pin. This pin is part of my Three Weird Sisters collection. Now let's get into the design. So this is the third of the Three Weird Sisters pin designs. The Fillet-of-Fenny Snake Witch stands in the middle by the cauldron. She's got kind of a robed sorceress look about her. The Eye of Newt Witch has a very classic witchy look with her wide-brimmed pointed hat. For Toe of Frog, I wanted to go with something a bit wilder looking, a bit more ragged. The idea I was going with was this was a witch who went out into the woods, into solitude, and stayed there for a while. That's why her outfit is more raggedy. That's why she's got a collection of animal bones that she's going to be wearing as a necklace, and there's a bird skull that's going to be cinching around her waistband area. I liked the idea of this being like someone who's out in nature and, who's really just embraced things that many members of civilization might feel are gross or scary or macabre. Most people don't go around wearing bird skulls. But for her, that's not something unusual. It has meaning to her or usefulness or she just likes it. If you're a witch living in seclusion in the woods, I'd imagine you can't exactly go to your nearest Walmart if you want to get a belt buckle. So that's the overall look that I wanted for this specific pin design. She's also, going to be holding a frog because this is the Toe of Frog pin design. And just like Fillet-of-Fenny Snake and Eye of Newt, Toe of Frog was probably not literal toe of a literal frog. Toe of Frog is another term for buttercup leaves. I think most people have seen buttercups in their lives. It's a plant. You commonly find it growing around like in your lawn. Little yellow flowers, cup-shaped, hence buttercup. And the leaves on buttercups tend to have three kind of lobes, and so they kind of look like a frog's foot. So while the witches in Shakespeare may have been talking about buttercup leaves, in this pin design, we are having her holding an actual little frog. As I'm doing the audio for this video and watching the recording of the design process that I made, it's striking me just how big of a difference the overall silhouette makes for the impression of a pin. When she's got that big cape on her, she doesn't seem as aggressive. But when the cape is gone and you can really see the body language with the knee thrust forward and the leaning, and it just looks very menacing. But with the cape on her, she looks less so, I guess because the posture doesn't feel as imposing then. I just found that very interesting and thought I'd say something about it. Now, an aspect of this pin that I thought was a bit challenging to work on was the frog itself. I looked to try to find references of a frog kind of in the type of pose I had in mind, being dangled by one leg, but I couldn't really find anything that was comparable for that. So I basically just had to look at a bunch of different pictures of frogs, and then I just kind of did my very best to imagine how a frog might be if it was being dangled by one of its legs. I don't know that I've ever drawn a frog before, so I really don't have a lot of preconceived notions on frog anatomy, and I really was just trying to do my best with this. I did know right from the beginning, though, that I was going to be using the exact same color scheme on the frog that I had used on the snake and on the newt. It was going to be mostly green with either black spotting or striping, and then I wanted it to have the yellow underbelly. I think at one point I flirted with the idea of it being an orange frog to show that it was poisonous in some way, but I quickly scrapped that when I realized just how different that was going to make this pin look compared to the other two pin designs, and I didn't really want to alter the color of one of the other ones. The choice was either they were all three going to be the same or they all three had to be different, and I just went with the safer bet of all three of the animals having matching color schemes. And that's something that's kind of unique to this specific project as far as the designs. Knowing that these were being designed as a set, some of the decisions that I might have made if this was a solo pin, I made differently because I knew that this was part of a 3-pin set. Now, just like the Eye of Newt has a blade, has a sickle, I wanted the Toe of Frog pin, I wanted this witch to have a blade as well. I wanted to give her a dagger, but I didn't want it to just look like a regular dagger, so I decided to make it have a wavy edge, almost like a kris, which is, I believe, an Indonesian dagger. It's almost like a flamberge sword, only in dagger form. I think flamberge means flame blade or something like that. It's another wavy edged style of blade. And I felt that having a fancier weapon on her like that made it feel a little more ritualistic. If you're just cutting something, a straight edged blade is perfectly fine. Having something with a wavy edged blade like that, that's a bit fancier and, probably isn't used for everyday cutting uses. As a fun side note, after I finished this one and the Eye of Newt, I did temporarily go back and think that I should add some sort of a blade to the fillet of Fenny Snake, and I don't know if I showed it, but I have a version of it saved to my computer where she's holding kind of like a meat cleaver in the hand that's closer to the smoke on the fillet of Fenny Snake witch. But I ended up deciding not to do that because it got confusing because you couldn't see her hand and how she was holding the blade, and it almost looked like there was just this meat cleaver blade randomly floating above the smoke area. And in the end, what this really came down to was just a balance of all three pins and making sure that they felt harmonious, that they felt like a complete set when they were viewed together. And this was just a really fun project to work on. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching this. If you haven't seen the other two videos, please go ahead and watch those as well. They're very interesting in my opinion. And if you enjoy watching the design process and hearing me talk about it, please go ahead, like and subscribe. I have a new video out every week, sometimes two, and I would love to have you along for the next one. Thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.